Everybody wants peace, and not a lot of people know how to get it. And that's why we have an expert today. His name is Jeffrey Charles Hardy, and he's a 50-year veteran in the healthcare system, service and facility planning and design consultant. And he's the president and founder of the Care for Peace Foundation, home-based in California. Now, prior to selling his healthcare consultation company, Xitra International, to a Fortune 500 firm in 1998, Jeff facilitated innovative and widely publicized management operations and new facility development services for over 120 hospitals all over America. So, my first question is, what's the secret to your success? And does having peace in the world have anything to do with that?
Welcome to Awakened Titans podcast with Lily Patrascu, mind-blowing conversations with influential business titans sharing how you can manifest abundance, love, joy, success through quantum awakening, quantum manifestation, quantum healing, quantum miracles, exponential business growth, and innovative products and services.
The secret of my success is always easy in retrospect. Now I can look back and say, oh, this was the secret. And when I look back, the secret was following not just my heart, but my intuition and my brain, because I believe that we evolve physically, intellectually, and spiritually simultaneously. And if you follow those three areas of your ability, you can't go wrong.
Thank you. You are the author of the Care for Peace Manifesto. Tell us more about how you came to write that and why is it so important for entrepreneurs to care about that?
Well, the answer of the entrepreneurs is that if you look at my trajectory that began as a hospital corpsman in the United States Coast Guard 50 years ago during the Vietnam War, and I was taking care of guys who were snake bites and broken arms and sunburns, you name it. And it was there that I realized that this feeling I was having that was really peace that came from care. It wasn't, but peace between two wars or peace after a war, or even peace sitting up on top of a mountain top with your arms crossed and your legs crossed and the people down in the valley are suffering. No, I mean, this was a dynamic peace that came from active care. And so that followed me through my life and was my revelation at the point in a hospital as a hospital corpsman, and then leaving and meeting all these nurses all over the world, literally all over the world, who already knew what it meant to care for peace. And I realized that that's something that people can tap into right now. You can tap into it. People who are watching this podcast can tap into. It's something that you have, and that feeling that you have is not happiness. It's a feeling that you have while you are caring. Now, I don't know if that answers your big question about the entrepreneurs, because as far as I'm concerned, that will come. Money will come. The wonders of having done something that really helps people is so important. And I can't think of anything more valuable than helping other people and helping the environment while you're helping yourself. My gosh, it's just really simple. The book is about the planning process. And the planning process is what I learned and experimented with for 50 years working for Kaiser Foundation International, which is a huge organization, healthcare organization, and for Columbia HCA, which they had 195 hospitals in the United States. And then when I sold my hospital planning consulting company to a Fortune 500 company that you mentioned in your intro, then I said, why don't I just help the people outside of America who really need the help and not get paid one penny. Because I'd made my money. I didn't have to make any more money. I decided that I would, I don't know, pay it forward or whatever they say. So I ended up in Vietnam and Nigeria, Kenya, Curacao, the Netherlands, Antilles, Bahamas, you name it. But finally, I made a foundation. I created a foundation called, guess what? Care for Peace. And we went to Myanmar, which is Burma, and we worked with the government and the state and the local people to design and build the tiniest little 50 by 50 community development and health center. And this center was so perfect. It worked. It was slated to be replicated in 249 more rural areas through this unbelievably rural country. And then the military coup occurred and we were kicked out, and so was the government that we were working with. But it doesn't matter. It was the impetus for me to say to myself, okay, now what the heck are you going to do? You don't have this, 24/7 job where you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning to be able to talk with people where it's 7 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I got a good night's sleep, but I realized that, wait a minute, I'm not really sleeping that well. And so I decided to write a book. And so that's what I did. I wrote To Care for Peace. It was originally called To Care for Peace Manifesto, but To Care for Peace is a global mandate to secure the second human evolution in perpetuity. Now, that's a mouthful. So I decided to put it on the front cover of the book so that if it's ever at Costco on that big long table that has all the books, then people don't have to read the book. They can just look at the cover and read what it is. So I don't know if you're an entrepreneur or you're a young person, and I talk to a lot to younger people, and they say, "What can I do to become a millionaire?" And I say, "That's the wrong question." So the right question is, what can you do? What do you do? Where is your head, your heart, your soul? Where is your spirit? What's going to drive you? What is it that motivates you? What gets you out of bed in the morning? And if you like to sit at computers and play games, fine. Maybe you should design games. It doesn't matter, because you will be a multimillionaire if you follow your passion. And I look at passion being those three things. It's not just your heart. It's your physical passion, what you want to do with your hands. It's your intellectual passion. What is it that gets you moving? What do you read about? What do you like to talk with people about? What's that intellectual input and output? And then finally, but most important, what's your spiritual makeup? And this is, my gosh, I've worked in Arab countries. I worked in Bahrain for a whole year, and I'll tell you, working with the Muslim people there was absolutely the height of my life. Here I am, a Christian, and then working in Bahrain with a bunch of wonderful Arabs that had to take breaks during the day to roll up their prayer rugs facing Mecca. And these people were just absolutely wonderful. And then I'm in Myanmar for 10 years, on and off, and here's a bunch of Buddhists who are absolutely phenomenal, and they brought their spiritual to our meetings. I can tell you, it works, but you have to have all those three things in order to be a good planner. And I was a planner. And so I decided while I was in Myanmar that, wait a minute, if I can plan hospitals and healthcare facilities with all sorts of expertise from all over the world. I mean, I have doctors and nurses and owners and radiology techs and you name it, all these people sitting around the table to plan one building and one service and one system. It works. So what if I use these tools to maybe write a book about how to plan a global country? It's like one global nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That became my physical, intellectual, and spiritual drive that got me to write that book.
Wow. So tell us about what entrepreneurs can do in terms of perhaps small steps they can do in order to create peace.
I think that the small steps start with who you are. On my cup, I have the verse of a song I wrote that was produced by some professional people so that the children in Myanmar could sing the song at our grand opening of this community development and health center, and it's a very simple bridge. It's who you are is what you give with your heart and with your hands to care for peace. So you have to have something like that in your next step makeup, because you're asking what are small steps. Well, you got to recognize who you are. And if what you are and who you are is what you give with your heart and with your hands, you're halfway there. Or heck, you're 99.9% that. And I use my own life as an example. As I was a hospital corpsman, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, but here I am helping a bunch of guys survive and get better and reduce their suffering and their pain. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is it. Wow. So it's what you do with your heart, with your hands. So step number one is, who are you? Just like what the caterpillar says in Alice in Wonderland. Who are you? You got to know who you are. That's step number one.
Okay, that's step number one. So tell us, what is step number two?
Haha. How did I guess you were going to ask me that question? I think step number two is look at your technical abilities, so that, which includes your ability to communicate, your interpersonal abilities. Say, I'm going from who you are to what's your relationship? What do your relationships look like? Do you have good relationships? Do you have relationships that people who are worthy of your who? Are the people that you're working with, you live with, you love, are these people who are helping you? These relationships are the people. It's the system of caring that you need to build from the inside out. And the system of caring is not just, okay, you could become a nurse or frankly a teacher, or any woman can become a mother, because I've got a daughter-in-law in the next room who has given us a wonderful granddaughter who's only 3 months old, and I will tell you, there is nobody who knows about care for peace more than my daughter-in-law. It's just unbelievable. So you have to think about that relationship, and you have to nurture all those relationships. So step two is recognizing where you are in relationship to relationships that you have and the relationships that you want. And then the third, because you're going to ask the next question, is what's step number three is, it's the environment. You've got to be looking at who you are in relation to the people who care with you for our global environment. And I do mean our global environment. Yes, you can do your recycling, you can drive an electric car, or whatever the soup du jour is of helping the world. But as a global journey, we have to start our care for peace journey here with our friends and the people we work with and the environment, because at that point we are in a position, where we can facilitate the pre-planning process. Pre-planning. Now, your fourth question is, what's pre-planning? Because you are a pre-planner, and what you're doing with this podcast process that you're doing is pre-planning. We've got to do a lot of talk. You can't just start planning. When I'm in a healthcare arena and I am asked to help plan a hospital, here's a $500 million hospital that I'm helping plan. Guess what? My number one job is just simply facilitating. That's it. I get the right people in the room and I say, okay, do you guys know what we're doing? And half of the time, most of the people in the room have never designed anything before in their lives. You've got a doctor here who was the oncologist, and he wants to help, and he's there. The radiologist who knows already how his radiology department needs to be built. And then you have the laboratory people, and you've got all these people coming in here, including the architect and engineers and the owner, right? So what do you do with all these people? Well, guess what I did? I bundle them all together, stick them on a bus, stick them on an airplane, so that they can go see what other hospitals look like. And together, they look at the world of healthcare today. And we get information from national health organizations, non-government organizations about what's going to happen tomorrow, because there's nothing that's changing more than healthcare. I mean, in the time that I was designing one hospital, they went from inpatient focused to outpatient focused. What does that do to the design of a hospital? Immense. It's just unbelievable. So the pre-planning process is all the talk that you do, all the talk that we did in pre-planning, getting on airplanes and going and looking at hospitals. We'd look at something and we'd say, well, that nursing unit, that patient care unit, that place where the nurse is sitting in a nursing unit, and then she sees a little buzzer, and then she has to walk all the way down a corridor to the very end of the corridor where there's a patient in a far distant room. And wait a minute, do we want to have a brand new hospital where the nurses can't even see the patients? And somebody else says, well, intensive care units are pretty much the way to design a hospital right now. Oh, you mean, so we need to design a hospital which is a square patient care unit, not one like a hotel, the way they've always been designing. So these are the things that you do during the pre-planning process, and that's what you're doing. That is exactly what you're doing, because you're talking to people breadth and depth, and you're also talking to people who have a value consciousness. And value consciousness, I know you use the word millionaire. Yeah, millionaires is part of it, but in my personal opinion and in my life, I can't just focus on money. I've got to focus on what it is that will eventually get money, And that wasn't art. That wasn't playing the electric guitar, which I would love to do. And I didn't stop my songwriting career in no way. I absolutely love writing songs. And it's wonderful. But I realized that wasn't something that was going to get me to the level of success that I wanted to do, so that I was in charge of my own options. And that means money. And that means making enough money so that you have those options. And so that's where I'm at. I'm not disconnecting from your goal. I am connecting your goal to purpose, because purpose it's the why that you do things. It's why do you do it? Why am I doing what I'm doing right now? Why am I talking with you? I've written a book. Why don't I just enjoy the money that's coming in from my book, which I believe is, as of right now, $6.35. So, I give my book away. It's just people do buy it online, and those are the people I don't know. But that's just what it is. Anyway.
Thank you. So, how can you create peace in a non-friendly environment?
Be friendly. What's your answer? I mean, that's a good question.
Well, it's a difficult question, because I find that, all of these situations that we have in the world right now are really tricky, because I don't understand why anyone would create such a massive thing out of a like a small thing that becomes like a massive thing and impacts millions of people. I don't understand it. But that's because my approach is a little bit different, where I'm trying to be as kind as possible, and I'm trying to be understanding even when people hurt me, and I'm trying to be understanding even when people misunderstand me or they criticize me or they hurt me in some way. But I don't think that's the typical approach. I think most people, when they receive criticism or when they are hurt in some way, their reaction is to backfire, to kind of like, oh, I'm going to be doing this, I'm going to hurt, I'm going to have vengeance, I'm going to do, I don't know, whatever else. And I think for me, the approach is always one of knowing that I believe in karma. I believe that if you are kind, in the long run, you're going to benefit more. And then the universe will repay that person with whatever they deserve. The person that has hurt me or has criticized me or has done whatever. And so I'm not sure what you would suggest in terms of creating peace, because I think, let's say if you have a company, even with 10 employees, sometimes there could be conflict there. So how do you make sure that you create or you contribute to having a peaceful environment? Because when you have a peaceful environment in your company, you get higher productivity, you have less, a smaller number of people leaving the company, you have more, you have better results, potentially more sales, you reduce the cost of, turnover and having to retrain. There's so much benefit that a company can potentially get from fostering peace within the organization. So I'm very curious, because you're an expert in this, how can companies create more peace or contribute to, continuously fostering this peace environment, and maybe eradicating violence, or eradicating discrimination, eradicating all these different sources of negativity that lead to people leaving?
Wow, it's a lovely question, because you just answered all of my questions, because you said you practice kindness. Thank you. And you also are doing this podcast, and you've got an idea of what peace is and what you have done in your life and what you're doing in your books. You're already there. Now, an individual company, what a lot of companies are doing right now is they're practicing corporate social responsibility, and that is a title for any number of things, including, okay, once a week our company is going to all go take the garbage off the freeway. So, here in California, you see a whole bunch of signs by the freeway that say, the garbage collection is thanks to this attorney office, or this IT company, or whatever. So I think corporate social responsibility is most definitely one of the things that a company could do. When I was in Myanmar for a long time, on and off, I saw many non-government organizations that were just startup non-government organizations that would be, okay, what one group was just a bunch of dentists who got together in Southern California and decided that they would fly to Myanmar. I don't think any of the dentists even knew where Myanmar was when they signed up to do this. There were only 14 of them. And so it was a pretty big company in Los Angeles, bunch of dentists, all, close to the UCLA Med Center. So, these guys really knew their stuff. So, and I talked to one of them when he came back, and I says, well, what did you do? He said, I took my pliers. So, because they pulled a lot of teeth. So, that's what they did. And one guy came back. He said when the airplane landed in some remote area of Myanmar, they literally rolled out a red carpet for them. There's so much that an individual company could do. Now, it depends on where the company is in terms of their own solvency. Okay, because some companies are just they aren't there. they're not there yet, or they're dying, or they're losing more and more money. I can't focus on that because I think survival, it's the lowest form of Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. I mean, you got to deal with that first. So, but when you get to a certain point on that pyramid, Maslow's pyramid, then you got to start something, and don't get too high on that pyramid before you start, because you'll find yourself saying, after I make $1 million, I'll do that. Okay, it's like the people who say, well, when I win the lottery, I'm going to give half to the church and the other half to another church. No. This is where you've got to get to a point where your care for peace and your relationships and your environmental responsibility is right there in the very beginning. And now's the point where I can share that with someone other than our internal organization. So a lot of companies do this. When you see those cards on the wall in your local grocery store for you could buy one, and it's $50 that you can give to somebody for Christmas, or Starbucks. I understand that most of those companies give a small percentage to non-government organizations, or March of Dimes, or something. And you hear this all the time because it's already happening. I'm not coming up with anything new. I'm just recognizing something that is already happening. Corporate social responsibility has been around for a long time, longer than those three words put their name on it. So, I mean, look at Bill and Melinda Gates. That whole thing started with their corporate social responsibility and is still going strong, thankfully.
How do you deal with preconceived ideas? What I mean by that is that as you are, let's say, in a company, and let's say people from that company could potentially be from different backgrounds, and what you'll find is that a lot of times people have a preconceived idea of who you are based on the very first time that they saw you. They just kind of made a snap decision of, this is who Lily is, or this is who Jeff is. Therefore, this is how I'm going to see Jeff or Lily from this perspective, with, rose-colored glasses or green ones, right? So from this perspective, you can do anything, and that will still come through those kind of like glasses where you have this preconceived idea of who you are. Now, the reason I mentioned this is because in the last couple of years, I had, for example, a meeting in this amazing like luxury setting, and I was having a lot of fun, and I met this really amazing, good-looking property investor lady, right? And I was talking to her, and I was just saying, wow, are your twins, because she was talking about her children, are your twins as lovely as you? And she understood, are your twins as ugly as you? And what that was, at first, she didn't even tell me, she didn't confront me immediately. She told other people, and then those people took me out of a group, and then it kind of read, like this WhatsApp group, and then told a gazillion other people about me and so on. And then those people thought that I was a nasty person, and then the whole thing just kind of really spiraled out of control. And it's like, I would never say that, because first, I'm not mentally ill. Second, because like I know that any woman, for any woman, her child is the most beautiful thing on earth. And
absolutely.
So it's like, and this is not one instance that I've had, right? There's another lady that I had at my party. She came to my party, very good looking, professional, well-spoken, well-presented lady. And I thought, wow, I was very admiring of her. And, she came, she had like a salsa, dance at my salsa party with other, like probably 80 entrepreneurs. And I contact her, a few weeks later and say, hi, how are you? And she has this negative energy, and I have no idea why. And she says, oh, you were so racist. And I have to this day no idea what she meant. And I said, but tell me, what did I do? And she's like, you should know what you did. And I have no idea. Like, she ate, she had a dance at my party. I was friendly. I was nice. I was admiring of her. I still think she's awesome. I have no idea to this day what she thinks of me and why. So it's like a lot of people sometimes have these preconceived ideas. So there's not a lot you can do unless, you have like a magic solution for that.
I don't have any magic solution. I think I come to I go everywhere with my preconceived ideas. Now, it's how you deal with new information that will make sure that my preconceived ideas are compared with everything else inside of my sensorium, because my brain gets all my senses. When you tell me something, then I need to allow it to be challenged by anything that you say. Preconceptions, we all have preconceptions, and the way, in my opinion, I mean, there's a lot of ways, but I think the first thing is commonality. I think you have to start your conversation. You start with, what's your commonality? Because if it's like getting my people who are starting to design a $500 million hospital into an airplane, because I want them to have a common experience of seeing other hospitals and saying, well, I like that. Oh, I don't like that. Well, why don't you like that? Well, because of this, because of this. And so by the time you get to something that you both see and you have an agreement, then you don't have to be, okay, I agree to disagree, which is one of the saddest, most pathetic statements that I've ever heard, but it keeps coming up. You got to get to agreement starting in the very get-go. And, when I was talking about religion and, all of a sudden I see my client in Bahrain take out his prayer rug, I would go like this, and I would back up. I wouldn't even turn around and back up. I would go like this and back up until I got to the door, reach around, very English, by the way. This is very English British, because they were trained by British. They learned a lot of British, and I'd open the door and I'd slip out. It's like, because I was showing them that I had respect for what it is that they believe in and who they were. So it's all part of who you are, is what you give with your heart, with your hands. And if you can come to, not you, but if one can come to immediate understanding with someone. I mean, I'll be with my wife and we'll go somewhere and she'll say, "That is a beautiful flower." And I'll say, "Wow, yeah, I really like it because it was a double delight flower, and I liked how the reddish kind of blended into the white part of the." You should do it all the time. You don't just start out with commonality. You keep it going. So, I mean, that's my initial take of your question about the preconceptions, because we got to work on it, and we got to work it. It's like the AA meetings where they say, work it, work it, work it. It's.
What about for people that have preconceived ideas about you? Because that's where you have no control.
I don't. And I don't think about me controlling. I think that I can do what you're doing, which is be a kind person and just keep being kind. You can't change anybody. I got kids. I got grandkids. Believe me, I never changed any of them. It's not. But, they say, well, maybe they'll learn by your model, and yeah, who you are is what you give. Because, love is what you give. I mean, it's what you give. It's not, okay, this is who I am. No, you gotta show who you are. You gotta be who you are. You gotta speak who you are. The value on, there's 4 templates in my book, and the first value is to care with my heart, with my hands, but the attitude is to do no harm and to do and say good things. Hey, I mean, that's it. That's all you can do. You can't reach into somebody's brain and change them. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've discovered somebody's prejudice only after I've known them for a year or two. Whoa, that's really weird. You know, he doesn't like that person. He didn't say he's anti-Semitic, but ooh, that's obviously what I just. So no, I can't change that other person. I can just be who I am and give. It's not about the haves and the have-nots. It's about the givers and the give-nots.
That is so profound. Where can entrepreneurs find you?
Under a rock. I don't. I mean, they can go on the internet, and, go to Amazon and buy my book. I need 39 more cents. So please, whatever you do, go buy my book. Wow, 39 cents. I'm saving it up to buy a Lamborghini. So, I mean, it's not really about finding me. It's if I've just shared you everything I know. That's it. I'm done. They can learn more in the book about what the first human evolution and the second human evolution is, what this phase that we're in right now, which is the suspended human evolution, and they can learn more about that. We haven't even talked about that because that's another backup process that we have to do, like taking my hospital people on the airplane. You not only go out and take a look, but if we're going to design a global nation, then we really have to back way up and look at the humanity from the very get-go, 2.5 million years ago to today, where we are now and where we're going. And this is not geologic. This is not the Holocene. It's not the idea where we can put human impact on geology, which is the Anthropocene. It's not that. It's just simply human evolution. The 3 stages of human evolution are, the first one that is already over, and that's the first human evolution that ended sometime in the mid-60s, mid-50s, mid-60s. I don't know when. I can't put my finger on the exact date, but it's when we had mutually assured destruction. We could kill everything on the planet. It's when we had conquered nature, somewhere in there. That's it. And then, sure, the existentialism came from France. The peace movement began all over the world. Martin Luther King, the Beatles. I mean, lots of explosive culture occurred that was global. And I say, okay, that's the end of the first human evolution, but it's also the beginning of this suspended human process that we have. It's a suspended human evolution, but it's where we better start thinking about where we are, where we've been, and where we need to go, because the second human evolution has not even begun yet. We haven't planned it yet, and that's why I'm a planner. And that's why I would like people to join me. Bring your own words, bring your own religions, bring everything, bring the whole library of humanity, bring every experience that we can bring to every conversation, bring the academicians and the government people, priests, preachers, you name it, but bring it all, bring it all.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential business titans, providing you with the insights to awaken to your full potential so you can get paid to be yourself, find true happiness, and manifest